to Again, welcome. This is Patent Insider, Tariq Najila here. Welcome to the branding using intellectual property. Today is all about branding. We're with the Savvy Networker Global having two events, one in Canada, one in Baltimore. And we're going to share this to be included with the live panel for all of you who are joining in. We want to take just a moment to talk about the branding. So you're going to learn from a lot of branding experts today that are going to go into the power of a brand. I'm going to talk a little bit about what a brand means, but also from the vantage point of intellectual property. And then I'll discuss a little bit about how I've been able to build my brand and the value of that brand. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm the Patent Insider, Tariq Najila here. I'm based out of Baltimore and with offices in Baltimore, Silver Spring, and Atlanta. We service and help protect brands. Particularly, I use patents as my intellectual property tool of choice, but we work on leveraging using intellectual property tools and leveraging the power of them to increase the value of your brand. What do we mean? So, branding. We think about branding. What is that about? What does it mean? What comes to your mind? A lot of times we think of something like this or something that looks like this. These are trademarks. These are brands. These are things that identify what's in the marketplace. So when we think about what's in the marketplace, all of these, if you see a symbol, if you see any of these symbols on clothing, on the computer, on a package, you automatically have an idea of what it represents. So this double arches that that's McDonald's. This Coca-Cola, that's a beverage. This F in a box it means it's Facebook. IBM literally means a computer or computer company. If you see this T with these dots, that means T-Mobile. If you see this Y with the exclamation point, that's Yahoo. If you see this Apple, like it's a byte taken out of it, and the silver, that means it's an Apple computer. The swoosh means it's a Nike. You get my drift. Each of these figures or images is a brand. It makes an impression. So let's go back. We say, what is branding? It literally comes from an old idea where they would take cattle. And if you ever seen cattle or seen animals and livestock, the numbers of livestock, how do you tell? Say you have two farmers with two big ranches. How do you tell whose livestock is whose? So they would take this iron and they would apply fire and heat to it. And they would literally brand the hindquarters of the cattle, the cow, and they would burn a scar, which was the mark of that farmer or rancher of who that cattle belongs to, whose property it was, so that as the cattle roamed and grazed, it would be identified and it could be returned to the owner. So that's literally what the word branding, where it comes from. We're talking about branding, but when it comes to a business, a brand does the exact same thing. We're taking an idea, we're taking intellectual property, we're taking an image, we're taking a logo, we're taking a slogan, we're taking a set of words, and we're making an impression on your mind. So it what comes top of mind when someone says your name, or when someone sees your logo, or someone sees your reputation is your brand. So we also mean the action of describing someone or something as having a particular uh, bad or shameful quality. So we think somebody's off brand, or we say somebody is they don't have a good brand name, or their brand is trash, their brand is not quality. That's also branding. So something branding is not always positive. Sometimes branding can be something that is negative. So we want to make sure that when we establish our company, we're establishing our brand. So also the promotion of a particular product or company by means of advertising or design. So this is how the marketer, this is how the company, this is how the corporation, this is how the entrepreneur establishes a brand by the promotion or the repetitive actions associated with a particular name, person, product, logo, symbol, website, jingle, hashtag. All of these things are marking or making permanent impressions or distinctive impressions on our mind to associate this activity, this company with us or with our brand. So this can involve distinctive wording or design to identify your brand, but we're also talking about culture. We're talking about reputation. We're talking about how something looks, a certain look, a corporate look, a business look, a fly look, a stylish look. All these things are representing your brand. A feel, uh, maybe this is a feel of a fabric. Like if I know that I have a high-end fabric, a high-end company, I know the thread count's going to be higher. And if I get an Armani suit, the quality of an Armani suit is going to be different, say, from a suit I get from Macy's. So we want to make sure that we understand that all of these things, these qualities are part of branding. Also the vision, when you see uh, sometimes the vision of a company, for instance, we think of a Tesla, we think of an electric car, we think of a vision of sustainability, we think of a Prius, also a vision of sustainability, environmentally safe, environmentally friendly. So sometimes the vision of the company or the brand is also part of their branding. I'll never forget years ago there was a Prius commercial where they made the Prius out of human beings in costumes, and that was such a powerful image in a commercial that it let me know what their brand was all about. So when we talk about brand, we're talking about what comes top of mind when I say your name, when I see your face, when I see your logo, when I see uh, you, what comes top of mind. So look at this again. Now we see these not just as images, but we see them as brands. In fact, the brand becomes more powerful than the name of the company itself. Sometimes the brand becomes just something that's common. We talk about, oh, I have an Instagram business. Uh, that means literally you have a business on social media, on a social media platform called Instagram. But it's becoming, uh, Instagram is becoming something that means social media business in a sense. Or, Facebook is the trending business. So to have an Instagram hashtag or at name on Instagram or have an Instagram business is a trending thing right now that may, it's becoming a brand, a business. So having a business on Instagram in and of itself is becoming a brand, but the word Instagram is branded. When you think of, Instagram, what makes it different than a Flickr or any other photo sharing app? It's the brand. It's the popular brand right now on social media for image sharing, social media sharing, for building a platform or a community or an audience to sell products to using imaging. So this is all part of that process. So when we think of brand, what comes to mind? We think of your name, the logo, identity, the colors, the marketing strategy. All of these things have, are part of your brand. And we'll go through those in a little bit of detail, but we're also going to let the other panelists describe some of these aspects as well. Another way, and if you do a quick search, you look around, you'll see all these different uh, aspects of the brand. Another way of looking at brand is the brand is your identity. Your brand is your way of establishing trust with the customer. If your customer trusts your brand, they'll begin to look for your brand, and then they trust that your brand is going to provide them what they need in terms of quality. Your design also can be your brand. We can look at the sleek design of iPhones or MacBooks. Apple's products have a certain design that has become their brand. Also, value. When we think of Walmart, Walmart has a brand of value, of saving money, of being, not costing a lot of money. That's a brand. You can have the opposite. You can have Nordstrom. Nordstrom's a brand. You expect to pay a lot of money in Nordstrom. Or you can go in other high-end luxury stores, uh, and you know that you're going to pay a lot of money. So these types of pricing also is brand. How your product, what's your price point? That also can be a brand. Do you have a cheap product that's just serves a function? Do you have a product that is high end and is luxury? Do you have a product that It's maybe not luxury, but it is, uh, mid-level or higher that customers are going to equate with value. So think about this: if you sell services, if you're in the service business, are you a dime a dozen service provider? Are you a expert celebrity service provider? Are you a mid-level service provider? That value is part of your brand. Strategy. Um, what is your strategy? What are you trying to communicate to your client with your branding, with your choice of words, choice of marketing, with your logo, with your advertising? So all these strategies also become synonymous with identifying you. Your logo, we have a C here. That's actually an intellectual property tool we're going to talk about, a copyright, copywriting your image, or better yet, trademarking. So copywriting the artwork, but trademarking your logo and your slogans, your things that you're using for marketing and advertising. Okay, so we just talked about branding. Branding, all these elements have different impacts. One of the things, the color increases brand recognition by up to 80%. So having something in color instead of black and white or grayscale improves visibility and recognition. If we just look back at what we had here, we see most of these are in color. Even if the color is white, there's another color that's offsets that so that it stands out. It brands that impression in your mind a little bit better. So we come back here, trust. Building it, how you deal with customer service is a brand. How you respond to people is a brand. It all impacts your brand. So 54% of people don't trust brands because of broken promises. So when we don't deliver on what we say, then we create trust. So if we notice apps like Yelp and Google, they allow us to look at reputation. So we can look and see reviews. Are you a 5-star review? Are you a 4-star review? Are you 4.5 stars? All of these things impact our brand. Okay. Values. Values, building a brand is big on relationships, big on building relationships. If you establish a trusting relationship, then you can manage and mitigate everything else that comes up in the course of business. So the value, are you someone that can be trusted? Or are you just after the quick buck and you're not looking to actually respect and value the relationship that you have between a customer? When you are in the service business or in the product business, they have a saying, the customer is always right. Are you doing everything you can to please the customer, to make sure you're providing what they need? That's part of your brand. Also, being consistent. Being consistent when dealing with brands online, in store, by phone, consistently, whether you're using a hashtag consistently, posting an image consistently, having a campaign where you market consistently, all these things are part of your brand and your messaging. That's part of branding that helps to put that impression into the mind. So establishing your brand. One of the things that is popular is to use the author, expert, or celebrity model of branding, meaning to establish yourself as an authority in your field. This may be because of your years of experience. This may be because of your high-end clientele, but there are ways to establish yourself as an expert. One of these ways is to publish books, blog articles, postings frequently. Uh, And one way to bridge this gap is to partner. For instance, Sarah and I are partnering in this presentation. Partner with social media influencers, networkers, uh, build networks with others, help them by introducing them to your network, and they help you by introducing you to their network. These are all ways to increase building your brand. Now we get to the action steps, not just the tools or methodologies or strategies. We also get to being excellent at your craft. Being excellent at your craft. It's something that comes over time. You have to perfect it. So building a brand or reputation may take years to build that brand. But you get there by being excellent and being outstanding. You want to leave, your work should leave that impression in your client's mind of how excellent your product is. Be consistent. You can't just, oh, I did a campaign today, a marketing campaign today. I didn't do one. I'm not going to do one tomorrow. I didn't do one yesterday. That's not consistent. You have to set measurable goals and be consistent. to establish a sound brand. And then the third is be impeccable with your word. Uh, if you had a bad experience with a client and they ask for their money back, it's better to give them their money back rather than have a one-star review or have litigation or be sued. Uh, you want to be impeccable with your word and honor your agreements. All this is part of building an outstanding brand. So why does branding matter? We see this is a old Nintendo, I think Adobe Acrobat, Disney, Google, Netflix, IBM. These are the different letters that are used to write branding. But you see, I can identify them just because I know the brand. It matters because it all reflects your identity. When you have a brand as a business, whether that's as a service provider, a corporate company, or a corporate entity, your brand establishes your corporate identity. So that's not just the colors, the logo, but it's also the way that you communicate. Are you easy to get in touch with? Are you responsive to communications? Do you respond to your emails? Do you respond to your calls? Do you have a staff that helps you and supports you in making sure that when someone calls, they get through? Or do they, every time they call, they never get through? Every time they call, they get a voicemail. This is creating an identity. The logo, does it look like something you had your kids draw for you, or is it something that you drew yourself? Uh, or is it something that's done by professionals? That's part of your corporate identity and your brand. Your behavior. How do you conduct yourself? Uh, is it a behavior that's professional? Is it a behavior that's unprofessional, unrefined? Is it, your behavior reflects your brand. And sometimes, going to these networking events and imbibing lots of alcohol, you can have behavior that's unbecoming of your brand. So you always want to keep that in mind and practice moderation or abstention in trying to make sure that you are in control of your brand and your behavior at all times. Now, there may be times where your branding is fun. Maybe you're a party promoter. Maybe you're in the entertainment industry and your branding is about having, fun behavior all the time, having a good time. Even in that, you want to be measured and make sure that your behavior is demonstrating your brand, because these things are communicating your brand, whether you do them intentionally or unintentionally. So we want to make sure that we're intentional with our behavior, with our language, the choice of our words, choice of diction, choice of inflection, how we communicate. This goes back to communication, but also the language that's in our messaging, in our advertising, in our website, in our emails, in our all communication, the language that's chosen by our staff, the language that's in all of our contracts and in agreements, the language that's in all of our messaging to the public. We want to make sure it clearly communicates what we want our brand to be. We don't want to establish ourselves as if we have a high-end brand, but have a low-end language that doesn't reflect our identity. Mission and vision, we want to communicate these things clearly. Like I said before, I talked about these environmental friendly automobiles because that's part of, it's a big push to have, sustainable environment, green environment. So if you have a Toyota Prius, we connect that with the mission and vision for saving the environment. The Tesla, saving the environment in style. You have a luxury style vehicle, but also has it's electric and doesn't use gasoline and endanger our environment in the same way. So also the culture. Who do you hire? Who's around you? What's the environment? Is it casual? Is it suit and tie? Is it jeans, slacks? Is there a culture? Do you have a dress code? Do you have a environment that with standards that you set? All of these things are very important. And then design, the design of your products, the design of your business processes, all these things contribute to your branding. So this just kind of recaps a little bit. Your branding is so important in your marketing because it clearly delivers the message. It emotionally connects with your target prospects with your product. It motivates the buyer to buy. It creates user loyalty, and it confirms your credibility. And these are just an example of some brands. Now, protecting your brands. Now, in my business, I'm the patent insider, and we protect your brand using a variety of intellectual property tools. I use patents, but these are patents protect brands or products that are tangible inventions, maybe software products, other types of mechanical or medical inventions. But it's more commonly when we talk about brands, we talk about these images, we're looking at copywriting artwork. So to make sure that we own the artwork and the artwork is associated with our company. Trademarking may not, so not just copywriting the image itself, but trademarking that image so that when that image is used in the marketplace, it's identified and registered with our company during in that certain classification of business. So trademarks are sought through the United States Patent and Trademark Office. You need either a trademark attorney. Some things are simple enough to do yourself, but you want to make sure you protect your brand. You'd hate to invest in a brand and find out after you built all this goodwill, all this effort to build an audience and a brand, that someone else has that trademark and you're unable to use it. And so if you're going to be, you want to think about your market, your jurisdictions. If you're in the United States, you need to register with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. If you're going to be doing international business, global business, you're in Canada, you have to go with the Canadian Patent and Trademark Office. If you're in, whatever jurisdiction or company, you'll have to go with that office. Other methods of protecting the brand, you have trade secrets where you can protect some of your brand secrets, your business secrets. That's like Coke's secret recipe or KFC's 11 herbs and spices, if you're familiar with those secrets that we don't tell the public. Also licensing or partnership agreements. You may need to have contractual agreements or partnerships with other companies. You want to have in that language or the partnership, you want to determine and spell out clearly how your branding is to be used. If it's a shared partnership, you should have say, okay, if we're going to use messaging and branding, then our logos have to be the same size. They should be on the same level. You want to communicate. You don't want to do a partnership and then have this company's logo and branding swallowing up yours like a Pac-Man and the ghost, or eating a power pellet. You want to make sure that if you're showing an equal partnership, then you want to demonstrate that in the messaging and branding. That's done by licensing agreements. So all these things are important tools for establishing your brand. So now when you look at your brand again, you should be able to see that the brand is all these things and much more. Branding is what gives you value. It demonstrates value. It shares or communicates your identity with the public. It establishes trust. It is essential for your marketing. It is strategy. It's not just happenstance. It's something that you think out and you plan. Advertising, it's something that is presented to the public through advertising, through different mediums, social media, radio, television, any type of connectivity with the public. Your logo, your imaging, that's your face, the face of your brand. The design, how you design your logo, your language, your behavior, all of these things contribute to your brand identity. So we thank you for joining us today to talk about branding using intellectual property. We hope to see you at the next Savvy Networker Global event coming in June in Baltimore. We'll host a panel there and give more insight, answer questions, and give you some real life experience. I know in building my company, I chose my brand as the Patent Insider. I chose that because of my expertise and my, over 10 years inside the patent office, learning the inside track. But I also chose the light bulb, the outline of a light bulb as an idea. That's where we have spark an idea. And then I chose it in the cloud. Everything done now, business is conducted in the cloud digitally. So most of my business is done in the cloud, remotely with clients. And so I try to communicate all of these values in my brand. You'll see the professionally done logo with the trademark emblem, which means I've applied for a trademark. I'm still going through the process of getting the trademark finalized and approved by the U.S. Patent Office, but this will give me a registered trademark, and I'll put an R instead of a TM meaning that I have a registered trademark. So I hope you've enjoyed the time we've shared dealing with branding using intellectual property, and we hope to join you at the next event. Have a wonderful evening.